The harmattan wind blew dust across the red earth, carrying with it the smell of firewood smoke and the faint sound of drums from the far end of Willowbrook village. The sun hung low, painting the sky in gold and blood orange, and the evening air felt heavy with unspoken things. Lydia was walking home from the stream, a clay pot balanced on her head. Her bare feet sank slightly into the soft dust of the footpath, and her mind was far away, thinking of the same thing it always thought about, the weight of her life. Everyone in the village knew her as the poor girl. It wasn't just about money, it was about everything. No father, a sick mother, a leaking roof over their heads, and a stomach that had long since gotten used to half meals. The market women gave her leftover groundnuts sometimes out of pity. The elders shook their heads when she passed, and children, those cruel little creatures, whispered and giggled behind her back. But Lydia had a quiet kind of strength, the kind that hides itself until the right moment. She never complained, never begged for more than she was given, never showed her tears except when she was alone under the tattered mat she called a bed. That evening, she was returning home when she noticed a strange gathering near the central square. People were huddled together, their faces lit by the orange glow of a large bonfire. A woman was wailing, her voice cracked and broken, while men spoke in urgent whispers. Lydia slowed her pace, curiosity pulling her closer. She soon learned the cause of the commotion. Someone had stolen the sacred golden mask of Willowbrook, the one kept in the shrine for over 200 years. It was said to be blessed by the spirits of the ancestors, protecting the village from famine, sickness, and war. The elders claimed that without it, misfortune would fall upon them all. By the time Lydia reached the edge of the crowd, the chief himself was speaking. His voice was grave, heavy with the kind of authority that could not be questioned. "No one leaves this square," he said. "Until the mask is found, we will search every house, every hut, every corner of this land. And if the thief is found," his voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, "they will face the spirit's wrath." Lydia's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know why, but the tension in the air felt like a storm building inside her. Then, as the search began, people scattered into smaller groups, inspecting huts and questioning neighbors. When they reached Lydia's home, her mother sat coughing weakly in the corner. The thatched roof leaked dust, and there was nothing inside worth stealing, at least, nothing except the strange bundle Lydia had hidden beneath an old mat that very morning. She froze as one of the searchers bent down, lifted the mat, and revealed the golden mask. The gasps came first, sharp and cutting, followed by an eruption of voices. "It's her," someone shouted. "The poor girl stole it." Lydia's mother stared at her in disbelief, her lips trembling as if she wanted to speak but couldn't find the words. The chief's guards dragged Lydia into the square, the mask held high for everyone to see. But Lydia's eyes were dry. She didn't plead for mercy, didn't try to explain. She simply stood there, silent, the flames from the bonfire dancing in her eyes. What no one knew, not yet, was that Lydia hadn't stolen the mask for herself. She had done something that would soon change the fate of the village forever. Something that would make people whisper her name for generations, half in awe, half in fear. And as the chief stepped forward, preparing to pronounce her punishment, the first clap of thunder rolled across the sky. The wind picked up, swirling dust and ash from the bonfire into the air. People shielded their eyes, muttering about the strange change in weather. Lydia stood tall despite the grip of the guards on her arms. The chief's eyes bore into hers. "Why would you do this?" he asked, his voice deep and slow, as though speaking to a dangerous animal. "Do you not fear the spirits? Do you not fear the wrath of your people?" Lydia's lips twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. She took a slow breath before speaking. "I fear the spirits more than I fear you," she said, her voice steady. "And that is why I took it." A wave of confusion rippled through the crowd. The market women exchanged puzzled glances. The children whispered, "What is she talking about?" The chief stepped closer, towering over her. You dare speak in riddles when you stand accused before your people. Lydia's gaze didn't waver. The mask is cursed. Her words struck the crowd like a sudden clap of thunder. People gasped, others laughed in disbelief, but a few shifted uncomfortably, remembering the recent string of small misfortunes, a child's sudden illness, crops wilting before harvest, goats disappearing without a trace. You speak blasphemy, an elder shouted, spittle flying from his lips. The mask has protected us for centuries. No, Lydia said firmly, raising her voice so all could hear. It has fed on us for centuries. The spirits that cling to it are not our ancestors, they are something darker. Murmurs filled the air. This was dangerous talk, the kind that could get a person stoned to death without trial. But Lydia pressed on, her eyes burning with urgency. My mother told me the truth the night before I found it, she continued. She said my father died because of the mask. The elders never told you, never told anyone, that the mask demands a life every 20 years. A blood sacrifice to keep the land fertile. And this year, it was meant to be me. The wailing wind seemed to answer her words. Some people began to look toward the elders, searching for denial, for outrage, for something, but the elders stood frozen, their faces unreadable. Lies, one of the guards barked, shaking her by the shoulder. But Lydia didn't flinch. I took the mask to the river at dawn. I was going to throw it into the deepest water so it would never take another life again. She glanced at the chief, her voice softening. But before I could, I saw something in the water. Faces. Arms reaching out. They whispered my name. They wanted me to join them. A heavy silence fell over the square. Even the fire seemed to crackle quieter, as though listening. The chief finally spoke, but his voice was strained. You expect us to believe this madness? Believe me or not, Lydia said, her voice trembling now, but the mask isn't finished. It will take someone before the moon is full. As if to punctuate her warning, the thunder rumbled again, closer this time, and a cold wind swept through the crowd, extinguishing part of the bonfire. People shivered, crossing their arms against the chill. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, an old woman screamed. Her eyes were wide, staring not at Lydia, but at the golden mask in the guard's hand. It's moving, she whispered. All eyes turned to it. The golden surface shimmered unnaturally in the firelight, and the carved mouth, once a still, lifeless smile, appeared to twitch. Panic broke loose. The guard holding the mask froze, his knuckles turning white around it. It's just the light, he muttered, though his voice wavered. But before anyone could respond, the mask twitched again, this time unmistakably, its mouth stretching wider, the curved lips curling into something that wasn't quite a smile, wasn't quite a snarl. A low, guttural sound rumbled from it. It wasn't metal scraping or the wind whistling, it was breathing. The guard yelped and dropped it, stumbling backward. The mask hit the ground with a dull thud, but instead of lying still, it began to glide slowly across the dusty square as if pulled by invisible hands. The villagers screamed, scattering in all directions. Children clung to their mothers. Men shouted warnings. The elders stepped back, their faces pale with a fear they could no longer hide. The mask slid to a halt at the feet of a young man, Jonas, the chief's only son. He stared down at it, confused, until a thin, black shadow began to stretch from the mask toward him, creeping up his bare legs like smoke. Jonas screamed and tried to run, but his feet would not move. The shadow tightened around him, crawling higher, pressing into his skin as if sinking inside. It's choosing, the old woman wailed. It's taking him. Lydia wrenched herself free from the guard's grip and ran toward Jonas. Don't touch it, someone shouted after her, but she didn't stop. She grabbed the clay pot from where it had rolled into the dust earlier and smashed it down on the mask. The mask let out a shriek, an unearthly, piercing sound that seemed to come from every direction at once. The force of it knocked Lydia and Jonas backward. The shadow recoiled from his body, riding like a wounded snake before sinking back into the mask's golden surface. But the mask didn't stop. It began to rise, slowly, eerily, until it hovered in the air at eye level. The carved eyes flared with a dim, red glow. "Give me what is mine," it hissed. The voice was like 100 voices speaking at once, men, women, children, all overlapping, all cold. The villagers backed away, some falling to their knees in prayer, others covering their ears. Lydia pushed herself up from the ground, her breath ragged. "You take no one," she shouted. "Not this year, not ever." The mask turned toward her, the glow in its eyes brightening. "Then you will take their place." And before anyone could react, it shot forward, straight toward her face. The air split with a deafening whoosh as the mask flew toward her. Lydia barely had time to raise her arms, but it didn't matter, the mask didn't strike her like a thrown object would. It passed into her. The impact was not on her skin but in her bones, her blood, her very mind. Her body arched violently, her eyes rolling back as an icy flood of voices poured into her head. She could see flashes, blurry shapes, strange lands, old sacrifices made under the moonlight. She saw villagers bound in ropes, screaming as the mask drank the life from them. She saw the faces of those who had worn it before her, each one hollow-eyed, each one whispering in agony. Her knees buckled. She felt herself falling, but something else stood her upright again, like invisible strings were holding her body. Her eyes snapped open, but they glowed the same deep red as the mask's had. The crowd recoiled. "She's possessed," someone cried. The chief, pale with shock, raised his hand. "Stay back. No one touch her." Lydia's lips moved, but the words that came out were not her own. The voice was layered, her own mixed with dozens of others. "This vessel is strong. She will serve well." A cold gust swept through the square, and the bonfire flared unnaturally high, its flames shifting to a sickly green. Villagers screamed, some running, others frozen in fear. Somewhere deep inside herself, Lydia was fighting. She was still there, still aware, clawing against the thing inside her. She felt it rooting through her memories, her mother's weak smile, the nights she had gone hungry, the shame of being the village's poor girl. It fed on her pain, using it to anchor itself. But then she remembered Jonas, the fear in his eyes when the shadow climbed his legs. She remembered the way the mask had chosen him first. With a surge of will, she pushed back. "No," she screamed, though the sound was buried under the mask's echoing laughter. The entity snarled inside her mind. "Asterisk, you cannot fight me, child. You are mine, asterisk." Her thoughts raced. "If I can't fight it, maybe I can trap it." Her gaze fell on the shattered remains of a clay pot, lying in the dust. But nearby, in the hands of the shrine keeper, was something else, a small god, sealed with red wax and etched with symbols. Lydia recognized it instantly, a vessel used in old rituals to bind restless spirits. Her body was still under the mask's control, but her left hand twitched. She forced it, inch by inch, toward the god. The mask inside her hissed. "What are you doing?" "Ending this," she whispered through clenched teeth. The moment her fingers brushed the god, a searing heat shot up her arm. The mask screamed, not in triumph, but in rage. The villagers clapped their hands to their ears as Lydia's body convulsed, the red glow in her eyes flickering. The wind roared like a hurricane. The mask began to peel away from her face, not as a physical object, but like molten gold being pulled from her skin. It writhed in the air, screaming, as the god in her hands pulled at it like a black hole. And then, a deafening crack of thunder split the night, and everything went still. Lydia collapsed to her knees, the sealed god rolling from her hands, now glowing faintly as though something inside it still struggled to get out. But before anyone could approach, Lydia's mother's weak voice broke the silence. "She has done what no one dared." She has trapped it, her eyes glistened. But at a cost. The chief frowned. What cost? Lydia slowly lifted her head, her voice trembling. It's still inside me. Part of it. I can hear it whispering. Lydia's words sent a cold ripple through the crowd. Mothers pulled their children closer, men exchanged uneasy glances, and the elders avoided her gaze entirely. The god containing the masked spirit paused faintly in the dust like a living thing, casting a faint, sickly light on the ground. Jonas, still shaken, stepped forward. If part of it is still inside you, then, what happens now? Lydia's eyes flickered, not glowing like before, but glinting in a way that made people uneasy. It's quiet for now, she said, her voice low. But it's not gone. It's waiting. The chief gestured to the guards. Take the god to the shrine. Seal it away where no one will find it. Two men hesitated before picking it up, holding it at arm's length like it might burst open. The moment they touched it, Lydia flinched as though something tugged at her chest. She pressed her hand to her heart. I can feel it when you move it. An elder finally spoke, his voice rough with age. The spirit has bound itself to you, child. The mask's curse cannot be broken. It can only be transferred. Transferred? Lydia asked. The elder's gaze was heavy. To another willing soul. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew what he meant. Someone would have to take her place, let the spirit in, and bear it until the day it claimed them. No one volunteered. Lydia gave a short, bitter laugh. Of course. No one wants the poor girl's curse. Her mother's voice broke in. We will not give her to the spirit. There must be another way. But before anyone could answer, Lydia's body stiffened. Her head tilted slightly, and when she spoke, her voice was hers, and not hers. The villagers froze. Asterisk, your crops will die. Your wells will dry. Your children will wither in their beds. Give me the girl, or I will take tenfold. Asterisk. The wind picked up again, swirling dust into the air. Somewhere in the distance, a baby began to cry. Lydia clutched her head, fighting the voice inside. Stop it. Get out of me, she screamed, dropping to her knees. Jonas rushed to her side, ignoring the chief's shout to stand back. Fight it, Lydia. Don't let it win. Her nails dug into the earth. It's too strong, she cut off with a sudden gasp, her eyes widening. She looked up at Jonas, her expression almost peaceful. It says, it can give me anything I want. Jonas shook his head. Don't listen to it. But something in her eyes had changed. The mask's whispers were no longer just threats, they were offering her power, wealth, respect, all the things she had been denied her entire life. And for the first time, Lydia didn't know if she wanted to fight. Jonas could see it, the shift in her. The way her shoulders straightened, the way her trembling stopped. The poor girl who had always kept her head bowed was suddenly looking at the world like it belonged to her. Lydia, he said, his voice urgent, don't you dare let it in. You know what it is. But her lips curved into the faintest smile. All my life, I've had nothing. No father. No food. No name anyone respected. I was invisible to them, until tonight. Her gaze swept across the villagers, those same people who had pitied her, mocked her, and avoided her. Now, they couldn't look away. The spirit's voice slithered through her words. With me, they will kneel before you. Her mother struggled to rise, coughing. Lydia, please. You are stronger than this. You fought it once, fight it again. For a long moment, the air was heavy with silence. Lydia's eyes softened, and for a heartbeat it seemed like she might give in to her mother's plea. But then the chief stepped forward, speaking to the guards. If she refuses to release it, We will bind her and take her far from the village. We cannot allow her to stay." That was the moment the choice became clear. They would always see her as a burden, a curse, whether she had the spirit or not. Lydia rose slowly, and when she spoke, her voice was hers and the spirit's at once, perfectly blended. "I will not go anywhere." The ground trembled. The bonfire roared back to life, its flames leaping higher than the huts. The god in the guard's hands cracked down the middle with a sound like splintering bone, and a wisp of dark smoke drifted toward her. It sank into her chest, and she didn't even flinch. The mask's power flooded her completely this time. Her eyes blazed red, her hair lifted in the windless air, and when she took a step forward, the villagers stumbled back in fear. "I am not the poor girl anymore," she said, her voice echoing unnaturally. "I am the one who decides who starves and who eats, who lives, and who is given to the shadows." Jonas stared at her, horror and sorrow etched into his face. "Then the Lydia I knew is gone." "Perhaps," she murmured. "But the world will remember the one who replaced her." And with that, she turned and walked into the night, the wind carrying her away toward the dark hills beyond Willowbrook. Behind her, the villagers whispered her name, not in pity anymore, but in fear. From that night on, no one called her the poor girl. They called her the mask-bearer. And the elders said that when the harmattan wind blew just right, you could hear her laugh, low, cold, and promising that one day, she would return.